Hi, my friends. How are you today? Today I have Randy Crawford with me. She's been in women's health through menopause for over 15 years. She's also a certified life coach. So, welcome, Randy. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you're doing today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Well, I'm great. I mean, I guess we're here in summer. It's official.
Yes,
Isn't
yeah.
that crazy?
It does not feel it where I am, but yeah.
It's starting to feel like it here in San Diego. Well, yeah, as you said, I had actually was the co-founder of a public women's healthcare company in menopause that was started in 1994,
Oh, wow.
long time ago.
Mhm.
And it's funny, I don't get to talk about it a lot because I mainly just talk about my coaching, but that sort of came to a halt I'm menopausal, so my memory isn't great, but I want to say around 2003, 2004, with the
Mhm.
nurses' health study, that sort of went kaput. But I have been in the women's health arena for basically most of my career. Now I work with women, menopausal women and their daughters. So it's always played a very big role in my life. I understand this stage of life where the confluence of all these things are coming together at the same time with
Yeah.
our aging parents, our aging bodies and brains, and our kids coming into their hormones and or starting to have kids of their own. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely testify to that. I started perimenopause while my girls were teenagers. So I had their hormones being crazy and my hormones being crazy and my poor husband. Yeah, for
Well, it
sure.
is funny because if I'll be honest with you, and this part, it's funny, but not.
Hmm.
So my business was, hormones for women back in the day. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I was young when we started this company. So I've been out of it for, well, since around 2004. Here we are in 2026. So when I went into menopause about 5 years ago, I will never forget it. I went into this OBGYN. I was so excited. I was like, I am in menopause. Like, tell me what's new. I literally entered the office really excited, thinking there's going to be all these new options for me. And I kid you not, my state of shock was like you could just see my jaw hit the ground because almost nothing had changed since when I left how many years ago. And I could not believe it. Like the doctor and I ended up spending so much time talking because I knew not as much as she did as a doctor, but as much as she did as a layperson can know.
Hmm.
And she just said, how do you know this so well? And I said, this was my business for years. And I worked with this health advisory board of doctors from the best of the best around the world in Eastern and Western medicine. How sad and pathetic is that, that so few changes have been made. But now we are very, very lucky that menopause is a very openly talked about subject. Imagine my shock 20 plus years later that Oprah Winfrey and Holly Berry and Maria Shriver and all these people are very openly talking about it. That to me is the win.
That's a huge one. Yeah, and that's within the last few years, I think, because even when I started in perimenopause, I had no idea it was in perimenopause. I just knew like my emotions were crazy. I was very, very depressed. I had like huge debilitating headaches, and my doctor never once mentioned perimenopause or my hormones or anything. So I just thought, wow, this is unbelievable that this is all happening to me. I had to do my own research and ask for my own hormone testing to get there. And that was about 10 years ago. So even since in the last 10 years, it's really become more of a topic and more open.
Well, so when we start listening to you, when we started the company in, like I said, 94, before we even founded this company, we conducted market research around the country and
Mhm.
with an independent firm. And they would ask women, and I don't care if they were very educated women in the cities or women that might have had less education, not living in cities. It didn't matter who we spoke to. You'd get groups of women in a room. I mean, to me, this was still the most fascinating part of the job ever. To this day, it could be one of the funnest things I ever did, was watching women in these rooms discuss how they were all treated with a one size fits all approach. And
Mm.
they were told they were crazy. They were put on antidepressants. They were given 5 minutes with the doctor. And they just wanted to say, like, doctor, what is going on? I'm having this or I'm having that, or I'm no longer interested in having relations with my husband and my marriage is going to hell. And there was all these women that were saying the same thing in every part of the country. And that's when my father, who had been in healthcare for years, was like, okay, there's something to be done here. And that's when we started. That's how the company was founded, by what do women need. And so for you, 10 years later, not that much different at all. Now look out another 10 years. And yeah, now because they've reversed the nurses' health study, and we can get into all of that, but now you have movie stars and media people talking about it. Now it's no longer so taboo. But
Mhm.
you can imagine back in the day, a business lunch where we're talking about women in hot flashes and other such dry areas, and people would think we were talking about, pornography. I mean, it was crazy.
Mm. So I have to give your dad a lot of credit then to go out there and do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, he was definitely absolutely a pioneer. He'd always been in reproductive health,
Yeah.
but when he started having the conversations with his peers, and he was
Mhm.
hearing it from a lot of women, and so that just sort of started the market research, and that was just such an eye-opening experience to learn that women from all walks of life were being basically told it's a one size fits all. Here, take this, and it's now interestingly they were given something called Premarin, which stands for pregnant mare's urine. I have not heard of that one lately. I don't know, that must have gone off the market. I haven't followed Premarin, so that one, but that's what women used to be prescribed. Either things for their depression or anxiety, like Valium or
Mhm.
Premarin. That was what they were given.
That was it. Yeah. Yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
that's just amazing to think of. And so you said that business had to shut down. Do you want to just explain why a little bit for anybody out there who might not know why?
Well, sure. It's very interesting. Again, you could look at this one of two ways. I'll try to be a glasses half full person, but at the time, we were what were considered a small cap company of around 75 million. And that nurses' health study came out that basically said that hormones could cause heart disease and all such things. And it gave women a lot of fear. And of course, I understand that fear, right? So, do I take this little pill every day? Or do I worry that I'm going to get heart disease or breast cancer? So, anyway, we knew from the experts on our board that this was not the case, but this basically almost overnight shut us down because we were a public
Yeah.
healthcare company. And just, I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, they reversed the findings of that nurses' healthcare study and said, oops, our bad.
Yeah.
Women, there are more benefits to be on HRT. And so I just remember when that news came out, calling my dad and saying, I feel so like, it's like a knife in the gut because that company, blood, sweat, and tears for
Mhm.
years, no weekends off, no night, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we worked on that company. And we knew we were doing something right that was not dangerous. And so I'm happy though for women because I do think if you hold two women side by side, women that are on hormones and women that are not, and you see the hunchback and you see the osteoporosis and you just see the deleterious effects of not taking it and the good of taking it. So I'm happy overall for women, but it was a very brutal ending to our company.
Yeah, that's a horrific ending to your company. And I just think of all the women who then had to stop or who missed out on that and just had to live with all these symptoms that could have been, you know, not there for them. That's very sad.
And it's funny because when I went into menopause, I remember so vividly. I give talks, and I was giving a talk one day, and I had my first hot flash on stage. It was awesome. I was like, wow, I used to talk about this as a young 30-year-old. I could not believe it was happening to me. Like I was like
Hmm.
Ron Burgundy up there. It
Hmm.
was so funny. It was so awful. When I was done, the woman came onto the stage to be like, Randy, and give me a big hug. And I remember being like, don't touch me. Like I was wet with sweat.
Yeah.
And she gives me this big hug, and you can tell she's like, oh. And I literally ran off that stage, called the doctor, and was like, get me on the hormones. I don't care what I have to do. Because it was debilitating all day, all night. Some women don't experience that. God love them. For me, it
Hmm.
was awful. So yeah.
There are so many of the symptoms I find from perimenopause that really can really obstruct your life, especially, like I'm a teacher and I remember kind of like you having a conversation with a parent at my desk and having a hot flash come on and just like it takes you out of the moment. It makes you feel less confident. It's like all you can think about is getting out of that room. So, like, that's a whole nother level that women have to deal with on a daily basis in their jobs with their families that could, you know, be treated if we had more help with it for sure.
Oh, I remember an episode. We used to use it when I would give talks when we had the company, and I can't remember the name of the show right now because again, my menopausal brain forgets. But with Christine Baranski, and it was her and she's in a scene where she's at dinner and she's having a hot flash and she grabs this glass of ice water off of the, waiter's tray and she pours it down her shirt. And it's so funny. She's like, I'm having a hot flash. And you watch that as a 30-year-old and you kind of laugh, like, that's funny. You know what I mean? And then it happens to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, and you're right. It takes you totally out of the moment. Like when I was giving this talk, because now you're thinking, everyone is just staring at me. And I am just profusely sweating and you're uncomfortable and it feels like your body is on fire. And it is so debilitating. And but there's so much more than hot flashes. Just for me,
Yeah.
that was the biggest wake up call. There's a lot of other things that come along with it as well that are
Yeah.
psychological that women don't understand are also associated with being in menopause. So, like for instance, for us, when we had our company, we had a side that sold pharmaceuticals and a side that sold self care. I actually ran the self care side. And interestingly, the products for libido were our number one selling products by far. I
Hmm.
used to all the time say, why don't we just make this catalog just straight sex toys? Do you know what I mean? And because honestly, the women, but they didn't know, they did not realize that this stage of life, because of their, depletion of estrogen, things were drying up everywhere. And they were thinking, I'm just not interested in my partner. Their partner is thinking she's not interested in me. And it was just very hard thing to navigate for these women. And so once you learn that you're not alone, you're not crazy, it's not just you, and you can do something about it, that
Hmm.
gives people hope.
Yeah. And power. It gives you power back, really, over your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So now you coach women and their daughters together. So you could have had like me in perimenopause and me with my teenage daughters. Why that combination? How did that come to be?
Okay, so interestingly, I stopped working for years because I had put so much into that company.
Mm-hmm.
Like I forgot my husband's birthday one year. I put so much into that company.
Yeah.
No joke. I just did nothing but work. And when that happened, my kids were very little, and I just said, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I
Hmm.
was lucky enough to be able to do that with my husband working. So people have come at me when I say that, like, well, we're not all so lucky. I was, and I know I was. So I stayed home with my kids and but I'm the type of person that always needs to be doing something. So like I had an article in the local paper called Rant with Randy. I was always doing little things. And when my kids started to get older and I saw the writing on the wall, I very vividly remember saying to my husband, I need to do something now, but I want to do something fun. Like I don't want to do anything serious. Like let's not get crazy. So I end up with this retail job that is really fun. And I'm working with all women. My colleagues are women, my managers are women, my customers are women. And oddly enough, when you're in retail, I think you could be doing anything. You could be a real estate agent, you could be a money manager. You're always doing some type of, I don't want to say psychology or therapy, but
Yeah.
everything in life, right? Is you're reassuring people and you're coaching people and you're making people feel better about decisions. So while I'm in retail, I like it, but that's not going to be my end all. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I then, through a series of events, get exposed to Jay Shetty. And I love his philosophy because it's exactly the way that I was raised. So I get my certification in Jay Shetty. And now in my mind, in my brain, and from my background, I was like, I see the problem. I'm
Hmm.
going to help these menopausal women that are coming into the store that are cranky, that are angry. Remind you, this is pre Ozempic. So they were
Yeah.
angry about their weight and everything. Because I can tell you now, they're all coming in much skinnier because they tell me they're on Ozempic. But they were just cranky about many things. And I understood it. And I
Hmm.
thought, oh, I'm going to hang my shingle and I'm going to coach these women because I understand what it's like to get back in the game. And I
Right.
understand menopause. And really ironically, all these women started calling me to coach their daughters who
Hmm.
had very little coping skills and, couldn't figure out what to order for lunch, but yet they're at these amazing colleges. And I thought that was very strange. So I started working with the daughters. And the more I worked with them, I realized that the problem, not to judge or point fingers, but a lot of the problem was how they were being parented, because they're
Hmm.
being parented by these moms whose identity is being a mom and who don't know how and don't want to let go. And
Hmm.
so by not letting go and then sending their kids off to college, now we're like, okay, go adult. And these kids don't know how to adult.
Hmm.
So I thought that was fascinating. And so I started working with the girls, but then several of them, I would say to their moms, I think we need to have some sessions as well because I want you to understand where I'm coming from because this has to be in unity. And so that, and then also I give talks around town, and a lot of the talks are to moms.
Hmm.
And they were always so fascinated when I would talk about how we help our daughters build their confidence, which again, this sort of shocked me because I guess my common sense brain just says, doesn't common sense just say, let your kid fail and figure it out? Let your kid fall down and get back up. Let your kid problem solve. But that's not what we do today at
Hmm.
all. We just pave the way for like the perfection, for the no adversity, for the no problem solving. And then we send them away and we expect them to figure it out. And I love the moms too because they are trying to figure it out. Who am I without problem solving for them? And I kind of meet them in the middle.
Yeah, I love that. I love that even as I said, I'm a teacher and I definitely see that with with our society in general. I definitely see that with the kids, like not just everything being handed to them or like not failing and having that be hard. Like we even I had a daughter who tried out for soccer and she didn't make it, and we made it a life lesson. Like, hey, you worked hard, it didn't happen. This is how you get over it. This is how you bounce back. This is what you take from it. Like I've always tried to tell them that it's not the failing, it is what you take from that failing and move forward with that really counts. But I don't see that in a lot of society right now as a teacher for sure.
No, you are definitely the outlier. And I'll tell you a funny story because I do Instagram stories and TikTok stories where I throw out a scenario. And
Hmm.
I don't ever say there's a right or wrong because I don't believe there is, nor
Hmm.
do I believe I am any type of moral authority. I just like to get different points of view. But one time I was really thrown. This one, I'm still bothered by it. It was like maybe a year ago, but a mom posted in a group that her daughter tried to get a job and went like 6 interviews deep. The boss basically texts or emails her and says, listen, it was down to you and one other person. You didn't get the job. However, here's my phone number, my cell number. I want you to text me. I want to stay in touch with you because it was down to the wire. Now, first of all, I am reading this and I'm thinking to myself with my brain, wow, what a
Yeah.
story. That girl's a stud. What a great ending to a story. I mean, the guy said, like, he gave her his cell number. But the mom says in the post, all she does is say, hey, can you just tell me how I help my daughter through this? So it was a very valid question, nothing
Hmm.
more.
Hmm.
But I love going to comments because comments are so telling of where we are as a society. And let me tell you that all of the comments, literally, were saying things like, what? Your daughter went through 6 rounds of interviews and didn't get the job? She should sue them. They're a bad company. She dodged a bullet. Thank God she didn't get a job with them. They're so unorganized. They don't know what they're doing. And it was like this knife in my heart. I thought, what is wrong with people? So I then made a post about it. And I said, hey, what do you guys think? Like, here's the situation. Like, do you take this as a life lesson? Like, honey, you did amazing. I'm so proud of you. Now go back and just say thank you so much. And can you tell me what would have put me over the top to get that job or whatever? And sure enough, I did the post. I mean, people jumped down my throat. Like, what happened to you as a child? You call yourself a life coach, wasting my kids' time like this, and on and on. And I was like, you know what? We are a very sad batch of people. If that's the way we're raising victims, you want to
Hmm.
behave like a victim, you're going to raise a victim. And I was horrified by the response.
Yeah. So in that regard, it's really great that a lot of mothers were coming to you and asking for help. Like that's a good sign at least. At least they're trying. There's some out there.
No, there are some out there that
Yeah.
are trying, and there are others
Uh-huh.
that are sitting back saying, listen,
Uh-huh.
nobody should take that much of my child's time.
Yeah.
And that's not the way that we teach our kids how to build resilience and deal with adversity. And you see, at the same time, the mom is helping the kid problem solve. She's then finding who she is at this
Hmm.
very difficult stage of whether you're in perimenopause, menopause, or some younger women are even in postmenopause because they go through it early. It's a lot of conflicting emotions. It's very nuanced, this stage of life.
Yeah. If you had to give these moms maybe some tips or some suggestions, maybe even tools that they could use to help communicate with their daughter, but also like heal themselves a little bit in this stage of perimenopause, pre or menopause, what are some things that you tell them?
Well, the first thing that I tell them, and this everything I'm going to say is going to sound very oversimplified because it is that when you listen to your child, your daughter, let's just say, the first thing I'm going to say is listen to your daughter.
Mhm.
Don't listen with one ear to fix. Don't halfway listen and then be thinking about how you're going to be fixing her problem. Don't interrupt her. Let her finish a thought. And then when she is finished with the thought, take a deep breath and then ask her, do you want to vent? Was this a great vent session? Or do you want me to help support you and figure out like what you want to do next? So, what we do as moms, we all do it. I mean, it's like when we know better, we do better. We want to fix their problems for them because we know that we can do it faster and better and it's going to get done because we've been there, done that. But that doesn't help our kid unless they're being bullied or it's a very serious situation, life threatening. The first thing I tell moms to do is listen. And then I say, take a beat and then ask your child what they want from you. Because most of the time, we just jump in before they've even asked for our help. And they either A, resent it, or B, they just learn this learned helplessness where they think, you know what? I don't even need to try. I'm just going to tell my mom and she's going to
Mhm.
call the coach and get me on the team. She's going to call the professor and make sure that I get to do the extra credit. She's going to come in and fix this. We have to stop making that our default.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that advice to listen with both ears and not just one. I like that a lot. I know, and there was often times with my daughter where I'm a fixer. Like you give me a problem, I'll fix it, right? Like that's what we do. Um, but like if I gave her the suggestion instead of just listening to her, that'd be the opposite of what she'd do. And then I'd be beating my head against the wall. Like, why didn't you just do what I advised you to do? But she wouldn't because she's a teenager. Not I wouldn't go in and fix the problem for her, but I'm like, here's my advice. And she'd be like, whatever, I just wanted to talk about it. So I love that.
Yeah, no, it's so
Yeah.
funny. Really, truly, the listening. I can't tell you how many times I would get in arguments with my son,
Hmm.
and I have vivid memories of him yelling at me, "Stop interrupting me!" Because as a mom, listen, as a mom, we know when we get in the same argument with our kid, like we know what you're going to say, so stop
Hmm.
saying it. Like I'm going to cut you off because I'm sick of hearing the same thing and I'm sick of the fight. But the once in a while, when you let them finish the thought, like all
Hmm.
of a sudden they're taken aback. Like they're actually like, wait, what? I'm used to you interrupting me because so I'm gonna come in with the same crap, but then you give them the floor to talk and they're gonna actually open up to you. And it's when people say, like, does it take a really long time to build this relationship back up? I say you can't believe how quickly it can happen. It's like flipping a light switch, but you have to be willing to take your ego out of it and to stop being right and to really listen to your kids. That shift alone is so huge.
Hmm. Yeah. And really, I could take that playbook of like me going to the doctor and wanting someone to listen to me is the same thing as them. So I need to think about like what I'm doing to help myself is what they need to help themselves as well.
Exactly, because unless, we have to ask ourselves, listen, again, our default is wanting our kids to be happy. That there's nothing wrong with that. We're all wired that way as moms. But what we have to look at is the big picture because see what we're creating are a
Hmm.
group of kids that are now the girls I work with are incredibly competent, incredibly smart, incredible young women, but they've been somewhat handcuffed because of the way that they were raised but they didn't get to really make enough choices, so now they question their choices. They want to be perfect at everything because they know if they weren't perfect growing up they would get in trouble for that. They're scared to make a decision and then layer in the social media, right? And they're
Hmm.
scared to make the wrong move because everything is going to be online. So what we want to do is start giving our kids the tools to build their confidence and their self-esteem. And the easiest way to do that is to let them fail, let them problem solve, let them make choices. Even if we know that choice is not the best choice, we have to let go a little bit and step back.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And it's definitely easier said than done, but I definitely agree with that for sure.
Definitely easier said than done.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking memories flooding my mind right now. Like, oh yeah, easier said than done.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
no. Um, so how about for the women in perimenopause? What could they do? Like they can listen, but what could they do to help themselves during this time?
So I think that women tend to think that if they do anything for themselves, that it's so selfish,
Mhm.
right? And it's, and I can't stand all like the cliches, like self-care is not selfish. But here's the truth. When I
Mhm.
use the word self-care, I am not talking about the manicures and the things like that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is we have to fill our cup in order to help other people fill theirs. It's like when they talk about when you're on the airplane, and putting the mask over yourself before your child.
Mhm.
So I think that what we do is we pour so much of ourselves into being a mom, even the moms that work outside of the home. So
Mhm.
if you're a stay-at-home mom or if you're a mom that works outside of the home, our focus, let's just face it, how many conversations have we had where we've said to our friends, do you think our husband is on the golf course, like talking about he feels guilty for being like going on the second nine, like and not coming home to be with the kids? Like, that's just not a conversation that would happen. But a mom would be like, oh, God, you guys, I can only play nine. I got to get home. I got to be with the kids. I got to be with the dog. Moms need to be a little bit more selfish because what we learn, what someone my age learns, I'm a lot older, right, than the young mom, and I've been there and I've done that and I've worked with these women. What we learn is when your kids are growing up, they are watching you. They're watching everything you do. They are sponges. And so if they watch you do stuff that makes you feel good, then they're like, okay, I'm allowed to have a life and be like, I want to be a mom, but I also want to have friends and I also want to have a social life and I also want to have a job. And I also want to maybe go out to dinner once a week. They see all of the stuff. So I can tell you for me personally, I worked 24/7 for many years. When I stopped and I was driving my kids somewhere one day and they made a comment to me, I was at that perimenopausal stage. I'll never forget. Like, well, dad works and mom just does nothing or something. I mean, I almost drove off the damn road. I'm not kidding you because I am someone that's done nothing but work around the clock for years. But they see me as being there for their every whim. Mom is here to pick up, drop off. She's early to carpool. She's first one there to pick up. And you don't realize what, so when they see that, they know that the whole world revolves around them. So I implore women, absolutely make the kids your center of your universe if you want, because we love our kids, but let them see that you have other interests and you have a life and you're taking care of yourself, whether it's like I love playing pickleball or doing Pilates or meeting your friends to go play mahjong or having a side job as a consultant, but do things for you and let them see that. That's so important.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. That's what I kind of base this whole podcast and my coaching and business around is called Nurture Herself because I really came from where you have to fill your own cup first and before I can even be present or be the mom that I want to be. So,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
because you don't want to resent it. You don't want
Right.
to look back and be like, why did I do that? Or why didn't I do that? I love that I stopped working and I got to spend that time with my kids in their younger years. But I'm also glad that I saw the writing on the wall when I was like, okay, my daughter's now driving. She can drive my son. I'm just standing here to like, be that person that runs to Target at 10 at night to get the poster board. I need something for me. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget when I first started my retail job for fun. I'd never done retail. I had so much fun, I can't even tell you. I was like, I'm getting paid to go spend a couple hours with women in a store that I love with a discount. I mean, the whole thing to me was like mind boggling. And I remember my friends even were like jealous. They'd say, wait, I want to do that. And I'm like, then go do it. Like, it's just not that hard. It was so, so fun. So just give yourself permission. And also, I'm going to add this because I forgot. Stop worrying about what you think other people are going to think about you. You can't worry about what other people are going to say, like, oh, Randy's
Mhm.
doing retail. Like, are they hard up for money? By the way, it's none of your business why I'm doing retail, but I personally loved it. I got so much out of it. And for me, I never was that person that worried about what everyone's talking about at Carpool because you do you, I'll do me. And then the retail led to so many other things in my life. So we have to let the noise that's on the outside, we have to just like get rid of that.
Yeah. And again, it's your kids watching you go through that and seeing what is possible and giving them permission to do things with their life as well. So,
Totally.
yeah, I definitely always think about that with my girls. Like, I'm watching them, they're watching me like grow a business. They're watching me step outside my comfort zone. They're watching me take care of myself. I want them to be able to do that too. So,
Well, and by the way, my kids have seen me try a lot of things and fail at them,
yeah.
right? So that's just as important. Like, oh, there goes my mom. She's trying such and such. But now they're seeing, you know what? That didn't derail her. She's not going to just sit home and do nothing. She's going to try something else. Like, we have the ability to pivot, and it's awesome for them to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I have two questions that I always ask everybody, and I'd like to ask you too. One is what is something that you experienced during perimenopause or now that you're in menopause that you weren't expecting, but it's actually you're grateful for it now?
Okay, this one is going to shock me for even saying this. When I first got on my hormones, my doctor told me no matter what, you're still going to have trouble when you drink wine. I'm Italian and I've been drinking wine every night of my life since I was like, I don't even want to tell you how young. And I love my wine, not getting drunk on the wine, but having it every single night. Let's not
Hmm.
even talk about COVID. When she told me, even on the hormones, I was still going to have the hot flashes, I was like angry at her. Like, how dare you? How dare you? That is so insulting. I'm going on the hormones. I'm going to have my wine. And the first night I had the hot flash on the hormones, I stopped the wine the next night. And let me tell you, like almost like a light switch, I was able to get to sleep early. I didn't have any hot flashes. And lo and behold, I started losing weight. And like everyone's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. But I'm not drinking every night. And so, oddly enough, because in the beginning I was very mad about it, I was like, this is so unfair to do to a woman. Like, how much more do you want to put me through? But it gave me a lot of perspective on my drinking. And now, when I have a glass of wine or margaritas with friends, I do it very intentionally and very rarely because I know I will wake up with hot flashes, but it used to be just a habit for me to drink. I didn't even give it a second thought. So I'm actually grateful that it's made me overall much, much healthier.
Hmm. I love that answer. Yeah. Um, and then the other question I always ask everybody is, what do you do to nurture yourself? It might be something small or something big, but what's something every day, maybe even that you do every day to nurture yourself?
Every single day, I have become obsessed and I'm writing a book about pickleball. I love pickleball. It's given me so many new friends. It is so much fun. It's you laugh, you're outside. It's like literally, I know there are other people and they're annoying. They talk about it so much, but for me, it's such a big part of my life. It's an hour and a half out of my day, and I love it. And I hate it when I can't play.
Yeah, my husband just started picking that up, so
It's so fun. It's just
yep.
so fun.
He likes it. He does say though, like he's a softball player, so he's like I have to learn. Like it's a huge skill change for him because he's like chasing the ball and diving for the ball, and he's like, and then he's like, I have my uncles who are in their 80s and they're standing and just like, barely moving and beating me.
But I bet your husband has really good eye-hand coordination. I bet he's really good because of that.
Yeah, he will definitely get there. He will get there for sure. But he's
That's
like, I just need
funny.
to like rein myself in a little bit. Yeah. Well,
That's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. Getting out and moving your body every day is so, so key as far as like that self-care. That's what self-care is moving your body every day. Not,
And being with friends. I mean, I think that there's an element to that that we've gotten away from in society, and everything is digital and text. We don't even call. So
yeah.
for me, pickleball is you're out there on the courts, you're playing with your friends, you see other friends. There's just something huge to be said about that, being in a community where you're around so many like-minded people, because we have a loneliness epidemic today. And so for me, it hits all the boxes, it checks all the boxes.
Yeah. Well, Randy, I just want to thank you so much for this conversation. It's been right up my alley, everything I believe in. I love what you're doing. I know we can go on Instagram and follow you because I do, but where else can we find you? Where should we look for you?
Well, I do basically I do Instagrams and TikToks. I only do TikTok because that's how I know how to edit it. I'm a Gen X. I'm really bad at technology. So I go on TikTok and I make a video to edit and I put it on Instagram at Randy Crawford Coaching. And I have a website, randycrawfordcoaching.com, if anybody's interested in checking that out or meeting with me. But yeah, no, so Randy Crawford Coaching website and TikTok and Instagram.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I
And I'm
love people
the
to
same
weigh in,
way.
by the way. I don't say
Yeah.
there's any right or wrong. I like a community of people that just want to share, like, because honestly, we all do it very, very differently.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for this. And for all of you out there listening, thank you so much for listening as always. And like I say, choose yourself, give yourself some love today, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.